Inside Sydney's grim Silverwater prison on Tuesday morning, accused murderer New South Wales Police Senior Constable Beau Lamarre-Condon started talking. Over the 5 days since handing himself in to detectives, as police frantically searched for the men they believe he murdered, Lamarre-Condon declined to give any information.
I am exhausted. I barely eat nor sleep. We went home last night extremely deflated, but it's not in our nature to give up. So we rallied again this morning and have come upon a wonderful result for the families.
That's Detective Sergeant Sasha Pinazza, the officer in charge of the investigation. Incidentally, Pinazza is the cop involved in another major investigation, the disappearance of Queensland mother Marion Barter. In 2021, Pinazza tracked down 30 aliases for Barter's former partner Rick Bloom, and she said she believes Bloom was the last person known to have seen Marion. On Tuesday morning, Pinazza, along with Detective Chief Inspector Glenn Brown, went to Silverwater. Beau Lamarre-Condon had spoken to a lawyer and agreed to tell police where Luke and Jessie were.
I apologise, I am not media trained and I'm not sure what I am allowed to say. Obviously, I have not been to the property. What I understand is that they're found upon a fence line near the entrance to the property.
Police Commissioner Karen Webb put it like this.
We're very confident that we have located Luke and Jessie. But I'd like to say also that this information did come with the assistance of the accused, for which we're very grateful, and I'm sure the families are very grateful.
Assistant Commissioner Michael Fitzgerald sounded as exhausted as his detectives.
We sadly as a society have these type of incidents, domestic violence, that occur in our world, and we have to deal with them, and it has hurt us because it was one of our own officers who was involved in this. Detective Sergeant Pinazza had obviously interviewed or attempted to interview him and charged him, but this is the first time that he has willingly told us information.
Beau Lamarre-Condon has not been convicted of anything. He'll now face a court process. Usually, police are circumspect about the way they describe accused people at these moments. But Assistant Commissioner Michael Fitzgerald was uncharacteristically frank.
Once again, it was a friend of people in this room from the media and an officer who's used a police pistol to take two innocent people's lives. I spoke to the Commissioner earlier, it's probably attracted the world's attention, let alone Australia's. It's been a horrendous and horrific murders, and once again we pass on our sympathies to the families.
The details of how the bodies were found came from Detective Superintendent Danny Doherty.
They're in surf bags, which is we allege was used to transport the bodies from the house at Paddington. They were covered in debris, and the state of the bodies won't be known until we do a proper crime scene examination, and then obviously from there we'll be able to have a post-mortem conducted as well. So it's a point where it's too early to elaborate on that, and I don't think also, considering the sensitivities around the family, I'm not going to comment on it.
Hedley Thomas is the Australian's national chief correspondent and creator of podcast investigations including The Teacher's Pet and Shandy's Story. Hedley, this case of course involves very serious allegations against a serving police officer. I've been intrigued to hear police talking about Beau Lamarre-Condon as if he's been convicted, when in fact he's only had one brief court appearance.
Claire, it's a very unusual case. We very rarely see police officers charged or coming before a court over murders that they are alleged to have committed themselves. In this one, Beau Lamarre-Condon has already been charged, so the matter is strictly sub judice, and under these circumstances, police would usually be extremely restrained in discussing aspects of the case and talking publicly. However, we've seen the Police Commissioner, Karen Webb, giving media conferences and being asked detailed questions to which she's giving detailed answers. It's hard to avoid the conclusion that police regard this case as one that they need to get on the front foot publicly with because of the terrible press that must accompany the killing of civilians by a cop using a police gun.
Normally when matters are sub judice, as you say, that means that police refrain from making any comments because they don't want to taint a potential future jury. We know that Beau Lamarre-Condon has told police where these bodies were. What happens now in terms of the legal process for him?
Well, the police have said to us and to the rest of the media that Beau Lamarre-Condon has been cooperative, and the police commissioner has in fact thanked him for that because of the trauma that is somewhat eased for the family. And that's another unusual aspect, the gratitude, albeit qualified, that is shown to a person the police will accuse of having stalked and murdered these two young men. Given all of the information the police say has come from Beau Lamarre-Condon to the detectives, it's hard to imagine that he is going to plead not guilty. But we do know that he was originally refusing to cooperate with the police. He does have lawyers. More than most civilians, he would understand his rights. And it's possible that while he has been cooperating with the police, he may still plead not guilty. In fact, given the psychiatric issues that may arise in this case, you could not rule out a defence lawyer arguing that there's a diminished responsibility. That is, he had some psychiatric episode that caused him to allegedly kill these two young men.
The Police Commissioner, New South Wales' first female top cop, has been under intense pressure. She spent Tuesday morning meeting with organisers of the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras after the festival formally uninvited police from participating in their parade this Saturday night. Karen Webb was the first commissioner to march in the parade and has said she believes it's wrong for her gay and lesbian officers to be excluded from joining their community. Many in the LGBTQI community have deep reservations about whether police, who notoriously discriminated against and actively abused queer people in decades past, have any role in the Mardi Gras festival. It's extra sensitive right now as police deal with the findings of an independent review that slated their historic handling of gay hate crimes. On Monday, Webb described the murders of Jesse and Luke as a crime of passion. On Tuesday, she apologised for that.
The motive for the crime is not a gay hate crime, but more one of that domestic nature. So I again say my apologies if that word upset people, and it wasn't intended that way. It was intended to distinguish it from a gay hate crime.
Webb has called in Victoria Police to examine how Lamarre-Condon was able to take his service Glock semi-automatic pistol out of the police armoury, keep it over a weekend, commit the murders and then hand it back with at least one bullet missing without suspicions being raised.
Well, we're in this position that a police firearm was used, and that can never happen again.
The complexity here is that Lamarre-Condon was working at what police call a user pays event on the weekend. That's where an external organisation, like the organisers of a dance party, or in this case a protest, pay for police to work at their event. For those events, officers can check their weapons out.
Ordinarily, at a police station that's 24/7, officers come and go from that police station, sign out firearms with access to it via a supervisor, etc. Where we have officers attached to specialist areas in the organisation or undertake other duties, as in this case was what we term a user pays event. The officer was on a rest day and took on additional duties. Then we need to safeguard that. There's clearly an issue and we need to mitigate that.
This is a terrible, terrible look for New South Wales Police. An officer who has got through all of the screening processes, who has been allowed to carry and use a gun allegedly to murder these two young men. But it has to be said, it's such an unusual event, and very good detective work has discovered the alleged crimes, and the police commissioner has been transparent. The circumstances are so extreme, I don't think we'll ever see anything like this in terms of the public disclosure at a very early stage. But we never ever see, even when Roger Rogerson was infamous in underworld Sydney as a police officer, we haven't seen a cop charged with murder.
coming up, how did Beau Lamarre-Condon conceal those bodies for a week? Don't forget, the Australian subscribers get all our journalism first for about the price of 2 coffees a week. Check us out at theaustralian.com.au. We'll be back after this break. Even if you've driven past Bungonia on the road from Sydney to Canberra, you might well have missed it. Bungonia does little to attract attention away from nearby Goulburn, with its giant merino and supermax prison. Just up the road is notorious Belanglo Forest, where serial killer Ivan Milat murdered his backpacker victims. One of the mysteries in this case is why Beau Lamarre-Condon, as police allege, might have chosen this place to dispose of his victims. Police will allege Lamarre-Condon put the bodies in a dam on one property, then apparently changed his mind. At that first location, he allegedly had an associate with him, a woman who's been talking to police. She told detectives Lamarre-Condon drove them to the property, cut the padlock off a gate with an angle grinder, then asked her to wait while he disappeared towards a dam. Police allege he put the bodies in the dam, then drove his acquaintance back to Sydney. They believe Lamarre-Condon then became suspicious that the acquaintance was suspicious, so he drove back to Bungonia again and moved the bodies to a property 20 minutes drive away from the original location.
2 surf bags have been found, some other, which has been covered with some debris. There's some other items of interest and significance that are also located, and at that stage it was declared a crime scene, and immediately the family were informed of the development in this case, and obviously, as the Commissioner said, a crime scene examination will be ongoing for some time.
Initially, police indicated Lamarre-Condon had a previous relationship with someone connected with the first property where the dam is located. The property owner, however, has told media that's not the case. Police also allege Beau Lamarre-Condon had contact with another acquaintance, a serving police officer, but that neither associate is under suspicion.
We've got no evidence at all to suggest that. What we will allege is that this 28-year-old man acted alone, and he's the sole person responsible for the murders of Luke and Jessie. He's the sole person responsible for placing the bodies of Luke and Jessie at this current location, and that's what we'll allege.
This morning, Luke and Jessie's families will come to the Southern Tablelands to see the bleak location where their sons were concealed.
I've spoken to both families. They've arrived from interstate. They've been waiting for news, and each day, each hour was, an agonising wait. So I'm relieved for the families. As the officer in charge has said and the detectives have said, we've been working around the clock on this for the families to find Luke and Jessie, and I'm pleased that we've found them. Of course, it's tragic and awful circumstance, but I think that as a parent, and I know when I spoke to Luke's mum, that's what parents want. They want to know where their children are.
Hedley Thomas is the Australian's national chief correspondent. Thanks for joining us on The Front, and you can follow this live story and all the other big news by joining our subscribers now at theaustralian.com.au.